All right, part two of our series on conditioning in baseball is going to be going over the energy systems used and then the work to rest ratios associated with those energy systems. So, if we look at the oxidative system, again, that's the aerobic, the one that uses the most oxygen, typically involves the least amount of effort. If we then go glycolytic, it's kind of the hybrid between oxidative and anaerobic. So, you're using a little bit of oxygen, but you're also using some stored carbs to fuel your energy for that activity. So it's typically a little bit more stressful, a little bit more ballistic in nature. And then as we go to the anaerobic, again, no oxygen, pure energy storage, pure carbs, sugar. That is going to be our most strenuous, higher outputs, max velocity sprinting, pitching, that kind of stuff. So if we go back to the top, go back to oxidative, working on the work to rest ratios, typically a 1-to-1 to 1-to-3. Now, some people can even go a little bit less, they'll go 0.5 to 1, meaning that they'll typically do more work than actually resting. And again, the reason we can do that is because the stress of the exercise itself is typically so low. Okay, as we go to glycolytic, it goes to 1-to-3, 1-to-5. Again, this is kind of the hybrid between the two. Remember that. So we're getting a little bit more ballistic. Typically, longer sprinting. You can call it sprinting, but longer running. But it's fast enough to where it's something we can't continue for multiple minutes at a time, like we would do with the oxidative. So think anything like 45 seconds to a minute. Again, not working on true speed or power output, but the velocities and the intensity is a little bit higher. And then as we work to anaerobic, okay, work to rest is typically 1-to-12, 1-to-20. Okay, so this is our absolute max effort sprinting, our pitching, um, you know, those types of things. Now, this is where baseball is played. Okay, the anaerobic system is almost exclusively used in baseball. Yet again, we have coaches who continually train their teams in season in this oxidative zone by running pulls, crowns, laps, any long distance running you can think of. So again, they're training the inverse of what the sport actually requires. Now, how do we go about that then? How do we actually go about training the anaerobic system? So you kind of want to go about it. I mean, you want to do pure anaerobic work. You want to do sprints with full rest. If you want to do med ball slams or jumps, just make sure that we're getting full rest so that way the output from the athlete is as high as it can possibly be. Now, if you do want to work some sort of quote unquote conditioning, what you can do is kind of merge the two of the glycolytic and anaerobic. So, if in terms of the work to rest ratio. So, if you want to go, med ball slams for 20 seconds, just make sure that you are resting for at least a minute in between. Okay, if you want to do longer sprints, if you want to sprint for 15 seconds, make sure you are at least resting 45 seconds in between. Okay, again, these aren't, you don't have to follow these per se, is exactly, as the rule states. But you want to, they are a rule of thumb for a reason. And you want to make sure you follow them as closely as possible. Again, baseball is played in the anaerobic zone. So to train anything other than that, especially in season, is only going to make your athletes slower, less powerful, and more tired. And not to mention, you're desensitizing the nervous system, which is then lowering all their outputs anyways. When I say that, lowering their high level outputs, because all their body is used to then is training at that dull, mundane, and obviously lower level outputs. So then their high level outputs then become, you train down, essentially, you detrain. So again, make sure that your conditioning matches the demands of your sport, and watch the performance of your team improve.